G'day there guys, it's your not English man Markee, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Now if you guys love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the stories. Posted by user ThrowRA Sterile, titled, My 26 male, girlfriend, 24 female, told me she is pregnant, but I'm sterile. I'm from a Southeast Asian country, and my first language is not English. Backstory. I got into an accident after my college and will never be able to have kids. None of my family members know of this. They know about the accident, but not about this. I've always wanted to be child-free, so it did not affect me much mentally. I have finished my master's degree last year and never dated before. I got a very high-paying job directly through campus placements. My parents immediately wanted me to get married after getting a job, but I wanted to work on myself and explore a bit. They said no, and I said that it was my wish. All my life I did what they wanted, and for the first time when I talked against them, they were not happy. This was last year, and they gave up after the pandemic started. So I picked up some dating apps and went through them, but no luck. Then my parents introduced me to a family friend's daughter, and we clicked kinda. Looking back, I was a fool. She said yes to anything I said and never complained about anything. I felt kinda weird about it. I wanted her to express her interests, but she always said she was interested in whatever I do. Well, I did not think much about it. I said that I won't have kids ever, and she surprisingly said okay. I was like, damn. She's probably the one, as it's very hard to find a partner who is child-free in my country, or at least I thought. But we were in the initial stages, and I've not told about my accident. Long story short, we had sex a month ago. I used condoms because safety first. The next day on, she started ghosting me a bit. I thought it was due to my performance in bed and wanted to give her some space. Then she texted infrequently and only replied okays and Ks and one-line answers. I thought maybe she wanted to end the relation and was sad, but left it at that. Yesterday, all of her family came to my house, and she claims that she's pregnant and the father is me. Needless to say, I freaked the F out and wanted to collapse on the ground. I did not say anything, while they were talking about marriage and stuff that needs to happen because I got her pregnant. Please advise me on what steps to take now, Reddit. BizQuick Ninja says, 1. Get tested to see if you are sterile. 2. If she is pregnant, get the baby tested. 3. Make plans accordingly if you are the father or not. And 4. On a final note, you may need to step away from your family for your own health. Exactly this list. Delay any wedding until your sterility is proven or the paternity is proven. I'd prove paternity before sterility. If I remember correctly, a lot of times sterile just means that you're under a certain threshold. Yup, I would only assume I am 100% sterile if I no longer have testicles. Beyond that, most sterility is a classification because of probabilities, but it only takes one lucky swimmer to make it through. That said, being told OP is sterile and using a condom, the odds are so astronomical that if paternity does prove this is OP's child, then the universe has decided OP's decision to be child-free was wrong with a big giant no sign to the face. I'm a 29-year-old male and was told 10 years ago that I am sterile, and my husband had a very low chance of having children. We now have a 5-month-old son, so it is possible. Yep, my neighbor was told at 37 she didn't have to worry about having kids anymore. She's 41, and I'm babysitting their 16-month-old right now. You do not have to marry this person. You do not have to keep your parents happy. They sound super selfish and manipulative. You do not have to do anything you don't want to. Get tested and confirm that you, in fact, can't have kids. Do not sign the birth certificate. Get advice from an attorney as soon as you can, and stay safe. Go to a doctor, get tested for sterility, and give the results to her and your family. If he's not sterile, he still needs a paternity test. Hell, even if he is sterile, he still needs one. Just because someone sees medical evidence that proves you're not capable of fathering children won't stop people from saying that you are the daddy in some cases. He should be ready to prove that not only do his boys sink instead of swim, but that it's someone else's swimmers. It is possible that even with very low sperm count that nature found a way, but it's unlikely. It's not to say it doesn't happen ever, but it's rare and it's likely not OP's kid if he's still sterile. But a significantly low sperm count in a condom, that seems as close to impossible as it gets. Update. Let me start off by saying I'm very, very grateful for all the Redditors who took their time to read and give me advice. I was overwhelmed by the amount of comments and how many of you said it might not even be my kid. Looking at it from a different perspective gave me much more insight on the whole situation. I called my boss and took today off. I called up some clinics to get tested and was given a slot on Friday afternoon. Then I went to the store and bought some pregnancy tests and asked only her to come to my place tomorrow, i.e. today morning. I also called my parents, and before I said anything, my mum asked me if I had any good news. I was shocked by what she said and asked me exactly what she was talking about. She then played dumb and I knew that the situation was more screwed than I thought. I cut the call and cried all night to 3 a.m., grown-ass man crying for the first time since 8th class. She came today morning with her parents even after I told her to come alone. They were under the impression that I was going to discuss engagement plans with them. I told them to wait outside and called her in, and they threw a fit. I told them they all can go back or let her alone come in, and they said okay. I took out the pregnancy tests and gave it to her and told her to prove that she was actually pregnant and told her where the bathroom was. She started screaming at me. Never done that before. I was shocked at this. And then she went out the door and called her parents in. Now everyone is screaming at me in my own home because I asked her to prove the pregnancy, not even a DNA test. I told them all to F off, and 1 hour later, my parents and them all came to my home and they spilled the beans. She was never actually pregnant, as many Redditors said. My parents were afraid that I was getting old for marriage and wanted me to marry and give them grandchildren. They said that in arranged marriages, there's no need for the people to actually get to know the spouse because the parents choose only the best for their kids. They planned this all and were only waiting for me to have sex with her to do this. I broke down and cried again. All my life, I did exactly what my parents wanted. Always scored high and never asked for anything. I told them to get out and never talk to me again in between crying. And they said that parents know what's best for their kids and I should do what they say. Then I got extremely angry and told them to F themselves in my native language, which was very bad. For once, I think they knew I was serious with them and they all left. I blocked them all before sending my parents a message to never again contact me in my life, even if one of you was dying. I cried for some more time, even through some dog videos, and went through all my messages on Reddit. And I feel like I owe you guys this update because it was you guys who helped me do this. This is all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Posted by user ThrowRAXTires, titled, My 40 male ex-wife, 40 female, wants me to be with her in her last days. Backstory. I met my ex when we were both 10. She was and is my twin sister's best friend, so we've always been a kind of a trio growing up. We started dating at 14 and got married at 23. Things got ugly though, cause 5 years after getting married, she told me she had a month-long affair with her coworker. Apparently the guilt was too much for her, so she confessed. We tried to work through it, but after a few months of trying, I knew that despite the fact that I loved her, I couldn't trust her anymore. She told me she still loved me and that she'd wait for me and prove that I was the only one. I wanted to believe her, but, some things just can't be fixed. We never had kids. 3 years after the divorce, I met my now wife, 38 female, and we got married 2 years after dating. She is everything I could ever dream of in a wife and more. My ex, as my sister told me, they're still besties, never really recovered. She quit her job and is now working in a church. Throughout my relationship with my wife, she kept trying to get back together, and on the day of my wedding, she told me she still loved me and would love no one else. She said this was the last time she would bother me, but that she'll wait for however long it took. Apparently, she's honest in that regard, at least because my sister says she's never been with anyone since. So here is what happened recently. My wife and I have been married for 7 years and have 2 kids, 7 female and 3 male. My sister came over with her own kids so the cousins could play. While my wife was out to pick up lunch, my sister sat me down and told me about the situation with my ex. Apparently, she only has less than 6 months to live. She refused treatment and wants to live the last few months to the fullest. I guess that's why her and my sister really went out of their way to travel despite the pandemic. One thing on her bucket list, though, was that she wanted to feel like my wife again. No sex, no kissing, she just wanted me to be around the house. She still lives in the house that we lived in again, and maybe hold her from time to time. I told her I wouldn't do that, because that was pretty much emotionally cheating. My sister kept arguing and begging me to at least see her and hear her out. We kept arguing, no screaming, as the kids were in the next room with her older daughter, till my wife came back. My sister told her the whole story, and while she looked upset, she said she understood where my ex was coming from. When my sister left, my wife and I talked about it. My wife knows everything that happened in the past with my ex. She says while she isn't thrilled about the idea, she won't get upset if I decided to go see her on a regular basis. My wife is literally the best thing that ever happened to me, and I love her more than anyone. She makes me happier than I've ever been in my life, even in the good times with my ex. She knows I won't cheat. I also have 0 romantic feelings for my ex, so there is nothing lingering there. I don't hate her or anything, it's just that the love I had for her has long since died. After thinking about it for a while, I'm honestly 50-50 about it. I know I don't owe her anything, but I feel like I might regret not seeing her at least one more time, since the last time I saw her was on my wedding day, and that wasn't a good encounter for either of us, unless you count the times I occasionally see her in the store or something. I honestly feel like, despite what she did, she still deserves to go with some peace. On the other hand, I'm not entirely sure if this might potentially affect our marriage. My wife just says she's okay with it, and I believe her, but I just can't be sure that she'll feel the same way after it happens. I don't want anything to jeopardize what I have right now, no matter what. I'm not thrilled about going myself, to be honest. Any advice? What should I do? Edit. Just want to add that if I ever do this, I won't be acting like a husband or anything inappropriate like that. Just gonna see her and talk for a bit. My sister says that me just being there and sharing a meal with her would be more than enough for her to feel like we were married again. Just my opinion, but I wouldn't do it. There's plenty of risk and a little possible reward. If you want to show goodwill towards your ex, run errands for her, or show support in some other way. Have a meal sometime with her, with your wife present. You don't owe anything to your ex, so these gestures are more than you are obliged to do. In my opinion, this scheme would be playing with fire with regards to your current marriage. OP, I really feel sad for your ex. The last 12 years must be full of sadness and regret for her. All of that because of one stupid decision on her part, without giving much thought to the consequences that might arise from this decision. That being said, this is her dying wish. So what I'm gonna say is gonna sound heartless, but please hear me out. Your wife sounds like an angel and very mature. I'm really happy to hear that she and you guys feel very secure in your relationship with each other, and that you feel comfortable enough to bring this up with her and for her to grant this. I'd say that a lot of families strive for this kind of relationship. Even though you have no feelings for your ex, this still has the potential of causing some strain in your marriage, with repercussions that may go on for a long time. Your ex may not be around, but you'll be around to bear the brunt of that decision. So I would strongly urge you to consider all the possibilities and potential consequences of this decision, unlike what your ex did. If you really want, you can certainly consider running errands for her and/or meeting her often in open public places like parks during the day. I find it amusing that she's the one who cheated, and you were the one to have moved out, and she's the one who ended up keeping the house that you both bought. And now she wants to play house husband and wife with you in that same house? She expects you and your wife to be okay with it. I understand that you now have no feelings towards your ex, and I'd say that you are a better person than I am for that. That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the "it's her dying wish" part and gloss over the fact that she was the one who had an affair and ruined everything. And now she's asking OP for something that many would see as disrespect to his new wife. Also, are we absolutely sure this is legit and not just some harebrained scheme to destroy his new marriage and get him back? What proof does OP have other than his sister's word that she's actually dying? Do not do this. This has the potential to backfire and ruin your marriage. At the bare minimum, put unneeded strain on it. I know your wife said that she will back whatever decision you choose, but trust me, this will affect her negatively. Your ex-wife will be gone, and you'll be left with this weird tension inside your marriage. Also, you have kids. How are you going to explain your absence to them? I would agree to meet up for coffee and have her get some closure about everything. Afterward, discuss with your wife if continuing to get coffee and talking with her as a friend is a comfortable boundary for you both. You can be there for your ex-wife and keep your current wife your number one priority. This is a sad situation, and I feel sorry for your ex-wife, but don't be willing to throw a wrench into your own happiness. Yeah, meet her for a coffee or have her over to your house with your wife present. They are a team, a family. He's not a prop in someone else's fantasy. Updates: my ex-wife wants me to be with her in her last days. Quick recap: my ex-wife, who I've known since I was 10, cheated on me but is now dying and wants me to be around before she dies. It's been almost 3 weeks since I've posted this, and a lot has happened since. I got some solid advice from a lot of you guys, especially some who messaged me their personal experiences. I'd like to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. So here is what happened. As many of you guys suggested, I talked to my wife. We had a long discussion about the whole situation, and I assured her that no matter what, she is and always will be my first priority. I also assured her that while I wanted to say my goodbye, I would never act like her husband. It would be more like me seeing a childhood friend or something like that. I also told her I would never spend the night, nor would I be alone with her. She was more comfortable after our talk and was pretty okay with the idea of me seeing my ex again. As you guys guessed, she really felt like she was being forced into being okay with it when my sister asked, but this time she really was okay. So I talked to my sister, and after a long heated discussion about what my role would be in the visit, she agreed to the boundaries that my wife and I set. A week later, my sister and I came over to our old marital home. It was surreal, because while the emotions from years before came back to me, I didn't feel any sadness nor hatred or anything negative. I saw my ex, who was waiting for us in the living room, and she cried when I walked in. Most of you suggested she was faking it, but while she was still strong, you could tell almost immediately something was wrong with her. I indulged her with a hug and we talked for a few hours while my sister made lunch. I showed her pictures of my kids and told her stories about what they're like. Honestly, I didn't know how I would react after I saw her again, but it just feels like seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a long time. There was no hate or anything like that. I walked around the house and it was pretty much the way it was when I left over a decade ago. I'm not really sure how I feel about our wedding photos still framed and pictures of us still all over the house, but it wasn't really my place to say anything. The three of us had lunch and played board games all afternoon. It honestly felt like we were back to when we were kids and the three of us would hang out together. It was nice. I left at around 6. She was sad, but she understood. When I hugged her goodbye, she whispered "I love you" to me, but then said how she's happy I was able to find the happiness that she couldn't give me. That part got to me, to be honest, and I was fighting back tears. I told her I'd see her again soon, and she asked if I could bring my kids next time. I told her I would, and I left to pick up dinner for my family. I told my wife everything that happened, and she was quite happy about the outcome. I guess it helped that I brought home her favorite food, but she also agreed to let me bring the kids next time. Overall, it was a great experience seeing her again. I feel like I needed that and would have regretted not doing so. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who gave me advice. Also, please don't roast my ex too much. She made a mistake and paid the price, but it doesn't mean she's an evil person. This will be my last update. Thank you very much, Reddit. Posted by user ThrowRANCPBF. Titled, My boyfriend's friend filmed his girlfriend without her knowing and showed his friends. I said it was sickening and unforgivable, and my boyfriend told me to get off my high horse. Context, the filming happened 25 years ago. Him and his friend are 47 now. I just learned about this and reacted with disgust. Edit, the filming happened 25 years ago, and he showed it to his friends immediately after. My boyfriend said that it was a bad thing to do, but the filming and showing of non-consensual porn by his friend should be forgiven because he was in his 20s and stupid, and that the girl never knew and will never know. I said his reasoning was terrible and felt sorry for the poor girl, and I asked him if I told him that someone in their 20s filmed me unknowingly and showed it to all his friends, would he say the same thing to me? That the guy was 20 and stupid. And he told me to get off my high horse, and that his friend is a great guy. His friend now seems like a decent person and has a loving family. He's done other awful things in his past. For example, invited his friends to hide in his closet while he had sex with someone without her knowing. My boyfriend said he hid because he didn't believe he would actually do it, and when the sex started happening, he turned away. I guess I believe my boyfriend, but it makes me very uncomfortable. I know this was 25 years ago, and people change. His friend does seem like a decent person now, but I'm upset that my boyfriend isn't as disapproving of this, and got annoyed at me for being upset by it. Am I overreacting? Edit. His friend's actions are unforgivable, and from other things my now ex has told me, and how people have made me question them, I do not believe he is a decent man from what I know of him. As a victim of abuse, I thought I would be smart enough to recognize it, but I wasn't. Thank you to everyone who has comforted me and offered me advice. This has gone beyond my original post, but I realize his issues are much deeper than this, and I'm overwhelmed. I won't be seeing him again. I will be looking at therapy. There was a comment here deleted by user, but OP's response is, I'm 23. I told him age doesn't excuse what he did, but he doesn't stop defending his friend. He said he had no interest in the older women that he met and liked me because I like space and rockets. As I type this again, I see that that was a red flag. Probably not true at all. I'm not seeing this man again. Babe, I'm in your corner. I'm only 7 years older than you, but I also have dated older men who I found out were abusers and addicts. I know how it feels when you realize you've been sleeping with someone who is actually horrible. And the space thing. If I'm 30 and also interested in space and rockets, why couldn't he find a 50-year-old astrophysicist to date? Because she wouldn't date a childish monster. Weird that that would be one of his grooming tactics, you know? He's not even a smart predator. Just remember, you're not dumb for falling for his tricks. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, you are probably a radiant, brilliant, kind young woman, and that's why he went after you. Young women haven't fully come into their power yet, so they don't know how great they are and what they actually deserve. Spoiler, it's someone who supports you at every corner and regularly hypes you up and will drop what it's at hand if you really need them to. That's true partnership. Yup, your boyfriend is a scum. Sorry. Watch out for things people talk about and find interest in, what they'd approve and disapprove of. This is who they are. Your boyfriend doesn't care because the poor girl doesn't know about it, so why care? This is his logic. A morally just person wouldn't care if the person knew or not. They wouldn't approve of it because it doesn't sit with their spirit. Your boyfriend isn't a person of value. And OP replies, when I told my other male friends, they sympathized and reacted how I thought someone would, with disgust and no sympathy for the abuser or for how long ago it happened. My boyfriend says this is the reason we have a criminal system with statutes of limitations, because people should be forgiven after a period of time. And edit, thank you so much to all of you who have taught me what this statute really means. I was completely ignorant and took my boyfriend's word, never bothering to look it up. I'm saddened he used this to justify forgiving his friend's actions. And someone replied to that, we have statute of limitations because of several reasons, including the availability of proof. The longer time passes, the less proof, witnesses, etc. are available, to incentivize people to press charges in a timely manner and not wait. I've never heard the forgiveness one, to be honest. And OP replies, I didn't know this. Clearly he didn't know either and was just throwing it around to defend his friend. He seems to believe it means crimes should be forgiven after a certain amount of time. He gave gangs as an example. He said this, kids in gangs kill other people when they're young, but the statute means they're not held accountable forever and eventually forgiven. I said it was a completely different thing to compare to, but he refused to discuss further. Even that is false. Murder does not have a statute of limitations almost anywhere in the world. You can be held accountable to that decades after. That's why the cold cases can still be opened if the new evidence is found, or a confession made. Update. My boyfriend's friend filmed his girlfriend without her knowing and showed his friends. I said it was sickening and unforgivable, and my boyfriend told me to get off my high horse. This post is very long. I'm processing it and can't write down my thoughts well at the moment. That weekend, I ended up going back because my prescriptions and camera are at his place due to them being unsafe at my place. My parents looked through all my things. I still loved him, and when I saw him that day, I decided I didn't want to give up my relationship over something that neither of us got a chance to discuss fully and respectfully. I was in complete denial that the man I thought I knew would defend something like that, and I selfishly decided to live in denial and ignorance until I had the courage to bring it up and face whatever answer he would give me. That was a few weeks ago. 2 weekends ago, we were having drinks at his place and listening to music, discussing a singer and his past allegations of abuse. I stupidly brought up my abuse in the past and we talked about it. There were 2 incidents I mentioned which I don't want to repeat here. We were both drunk, and when he's drunk, he has no inhibitions on what he says and behaves badly. For some reason, he decided one of my abuses were worse than the other. I tried to tell him my experience and why, to me, one affected me more than the other. At no point did I say one was worse, and I don't ever intend to decide which was worse. He took this as me justifying my abuse and called me ridiculous for thinking how I did and that I can't see how one was worse than the other. To me, both were traumatic. I wasn't and will never compare one to the other to decide which one was worse, and me talking about my experience wasn't me justifying it. He got angry that I wouldn't agree that one was worse than the other and asked me how I could defend one abuser over the other. I wasn't doing this. In complete frustration, I asked him how he could defend his friend for what he did. He got even angrier at that. He refused to answer the question and kept trying to ridicule me for describing one of my experiences as more traumatic than the other. I kept persisting for an answer, and he stood by what he said the first time and defended his friend. He said that in the 90s, illegal filming and getting your friends to hide in a closet without the other person's consent to watch them was widespread and accepted and not as bad as it is now. He said he found the incident amusing and funny because he couldn't believe it actually happened. He said when he told me the first time, he thought I would be cool about it because I was one of his friends. I asked him what he expected my response would be when he told me. He said I thought I would also find it funny. I asked him if he really found it funny, and he said yes. He thought it was a funny, amusing anecdote. I told him I felt sick. He laughed and said these words, "You're all woke, you young people. To you, everything you think is right. Only you know right from wrong. You're always correct." I asked him if it was his sister or daughter, how would he feel? He said it would be unacceptable. I asked him if he found it okay because the girl wasn't his friend, and he said yes. I couldn't believe it. I left. The verbal abuse from him continued through text. I told him I was leaving because I couldn't be with a man who found sexual crimes amusing and funny. He told me the reason I was leaving was because I couldn't accept that one of my abusers was worse than the other, and I had to bring up his friends to deflect. He kept repeating this for an hour. I asked him one last time if he really justified the abuse, and if he thought because he didn't know the girl, it was okay. I asked if his friend came up to him now and showed him a tape he filmed, would he find it okay? He said these words, "I will always defend my friends, that includes you and all my other friends, for better or for worse. That is how I am." I was sitting outside while this happened. I went back to get my prescriptions and camera before leaving for good. I was shocked to find him still drinking and took his beer off the couch to throw it away when I left. He was furious. He grabbed the bottle from my hands, and in the process, it spilled on the carpet. I haven't seen that much anger in him before. He told me to F off because I disrespected his place and that he never wanted to see me again. Somehow, despite it all, I felt extremely guilty for not ruining his carpet and sent him money to pay for cleaning it. I left with all my things. I've lost all track of time. At this point, it was nearly 2 a.m. I was a long way from home, and there would be no public transport home for another 2.5 hours. My phone was on 3%, and I was desperately trying to book an Uber and find a safe hotel to stay at for the night before it died. I was waiting for the hourly night bus to the city outside his apartment when 4 men got out of a taxi and started catcalling me, and one asked me where I was going, if I wanted a ride, if I would go to a hotel with him to sleep with him. They grabbed my ID and looked at my name and place of work, and then started asking me about my workplace. My ID was in my hand because my transport card is attached. The bus arrived and they waved it away. That was the last bus I could catch until transport started up again. They weren't being aggressive or touching me, but I panicked and called him. My boyfriend came over and took me back to his apartment to stay until I had transport and to charge my phone. I had nowhere else to go, so I said okay. He was still drinking, 12 beers in, and still angry. He told me to sit down or leave. I sat. He tormented me for an hour about my abuse and how I was ridiculous for defending my abusers and trying to insult his friends. I just sat there and cried until he said I could go to sleep. He kept drinking. 16 beers in, he finally went to sleep because he had no more to drink. The next morning, I tried to leave quietly, but it woke him. He asked me why I was leaving, that it was unfair, and he wanted a chance to explain. I told him why I was leaving, and he stood by his view that me bringing up his friend's abuse was the reason the argument started, and the reason the night went badly, that I was trying to attack his friends. He took no responsibility for what he did, and didn't apologize for anything. He kept insisting it was unfair. The next week, I told him I don't want him contacting me again. He asked for a chance to explain. He sent me texts addressing both of his friends' crimes and said they were wrong, that everyone who watched was in the wrong, and that he knew that he was in the wrong for not walking out of the closet and stopping it as soon as he knew what was happening. He asked me what I thought was the reason for the agreement. He said again that it was me who started it because I brought up his friends. But he also said that he was in the wrong because he was drunk and said things he didn't believe, his views on his friends' actions. He wanted to share 50-50 blame. He said he'd been a bad boyfriend and did bad things that night and apologized for them. He sent me back the money for the carpet. The carpet was okay, otherwise I would have still insisted on paying. He said he's willing to talk about it respectfully with me and wants us to be able to do that in the future. He said if I ever have something to discuss, I should choose a time when we're both sober and are in the mindset to discuss. I agree I brought it up at a terrible time, but I don't think drinking is an excuse for his actions that night. He says he'll change if I can change with him. He said he doesn't want something like that night to ever happen again. I don't know what to do or think. I feel lost and worthless at the moment, and I feel like I'm still being manipulated, and I don't know if I can trust him to change. He's made me happier than anyone else, but also more miserable than anyone else. He is currently my only source of happiness when our relationship is good. I don't know if I'll be any happier or worse off if I give up on that. Posted by user ThrowRACheetah1, titled, "My girlfriend has been sleeping with my roommate." Apparently this has been going on for a while. I've been dating her for over a year, and I'll confess, I'm not very good in bed, but I try. I love her, and I thought our relationship was great. Then last night, I saw her effing my roommate, my best friend who I thought I could count on. I'm socially awkward, so I don't have that many other friends, but I thought I didn't need any more so long as I had him. I saw them openly effing each other in the living room. I couldn't help but stare in disbelief. Then I heard my roommate tell my girlfriend to keep it down so as not to wake me up. She responded by saying that I never heard them before, so this has clearly been going on for a while. Now, as I said before, I'm not very good in the bedroom, mainly because of my small size. I've always been insecure about this. Seeing my girlfriend cheat on me has amplified this considerably. I don't know what to do. It won't be easy to find a new place to stay and get out of my lease. My family is abusive, so they are not an option. My few other friends are closer to my roommate than me, and I wouldn't call them confidants of mine. And I've emotionally invested a lot into my girlfriend. She was my first one. I can't pretend I didn't see what I saw, but I don't know how I can get out of my apartment. And if I do, I'm gonna be all alone. I'm already dealing with pain from being betrayed by the two people I thought I could trust, and from my personal insecurities. I'm terrified at the prospect of being completely alone as well. My god, people are so crappy. Sorry man, make sure you kick her to the curb and find a new roommate next semester. If you don't, experiencing any more episodes where you end up watching your roommate and girlfriend have sex can cause emotional scarring and trust issues that could carry over to your next relationship. And OP says, "Thank you. I do know that's what I need to do. I'm just worried about being alone after. Not to mention that moving away can be a challenge right now." It sounds like you've struggled with loneliness in the past, but my best advice would be to get on your own when it's economically feasible, then concentrate on working on yourself. Find a hobby, do things you enjoy doing, try to pick up habits that can contribute to feeling positive about yourself, and try out therapists until you find one you vibe with. I've struggled with loneliness my whole life, but in the sense of never being understood or listened to by those that I claimed would always be there for me. After a lifetime of being a people pleaser, worrying about what others thought and tending to their needs, I bottomed out and felt the worst I have ever felt. Completely alone, and with no other options but ending it all. I dedicated my energy to working on myself. I tried to approach it from the mindset of finally treating myself the way I have prided myself in how I treat others. It was uncomfortable, awkward, and felt completely undeserving it for a while at first. Then I began noticing little changes in myself, like not worrying if someone asked to hang out and I said no, or finding myself being less and less anxious while I was alone. This slowly built confidence in myself, and that confidence slowly being evident in my everyday life. I now have a small, select group of friends that I know would have my back when I need it. Everyone else that I once thought deserved a place in my life, that was never there for me when they knew I was struggling, can go kick rocks. Your life will actually be better without them. When your people see you being happy just being yourself, those that share a similar wavelength will find you. You'll be a beacon of light to a moth. And for those people that don't like what you're putting down, screw 'em. You're happy just occupying space in your own existence now and don't need that crap in your life. As for the two perpetrators of this disgustingly disloyal tryst, they deserve each other. Any person that would betray you this way, with such little discretion for how you would feel, is not worth 1 minute of your time. Let them know what you saw, and bring it to their attention that it's not okay. They will squirm, they will lie, they will do whatever they can to talk their way out of it. Try and remember though, that they are not doing this to comfort you. It will be completely self-serving. They will feel bad that they were caught, and actually are the wretched hose beasts they've been convincing themselves they are not this whole time. You've got this. It may seem like the end of the world, but time will slowly erode the horrors that you saw. It will soon be a distant memory that you look back on as nothing more than the catalyst in accepting yourself for the truly special person you are. P.S. As for your dick, love that thing, man. It's the only one you have. Your dick's perfect the way it is. We don't control the genetic lottery, and it's most certainly no reason for a decent human being to resort to effing someone behind your back. Learn to work that hog and find someone that will talk about their wants and needs. Your tongue is also your new best friend in both pleasuring a partner and using it to express yourself. Updates. My girlfriend has been sleeping with my roommates. First of all, thanks to everyone. While there were some rather unpleasant responses, like the guy who called me a pussy for being upset, or the woman who messaged me to say that if I couldn't satisfy my girlfriend, I should let better men do so because she deserved it, the overwhelming majority were kind and sympathetic. I couldn't respond to most because there were so many, but I assure you, you are appreciated. I talked to my landlord, who was sympathetic and offered me another apartment if I continued paying my lease. It's an informal arrangement where I'm still legally residing and paying for my old apartment, but staying in another. As expected, my now former friends took my old roommate's side, and I've cut them out of my life. I'm not doing the best I could be mentally. I'm all alone and dealing with personal insecurities, loneliness, and heartbreak. Still, at least I'm out of my earlier situation. I've taken a week off work and arranged to see a therapist. All in all, my situation isn't great, but it's unlikely to get worse, and I'm working on improving it. Edit. I have been completely overwhelmed by the response to this. I have literally hundreds of messages of support and lots of comments urging me to stay strong. There is no possible way I can respond to all of them, so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. You are all amazing. And Jenny Fair says, good for you for making the changes necessary to get yourself out of that situation and to remove the not good people from your life. This must be so hard, but you are being stronger than you feel you are. Clearly, do not listen to trolls trying to upset you. They wouldn't listen to their own advice if they were in your situation, so F them. Keep taking good care of yourself as you go through this pain. The landlord is the true bro in this story. OP would do well to send the landlord a thank you gift, if only just a thank you note. How much of a scumbag do you have to be to side with the friend who stole another friend's girlfriend? Even if they are close, that part just doesn't make sense. Do they not have a conscience or a sense of morality? Screw those friends. You are better off without them. That's what I was wondering. Who in their right minds would side with a cheater? I bet the ex-roomie told them a whole other story. I imagine two possibilities are those friends were either buttered up by the roommate or girlfriend already and weren't as close as OP expected, or alternatively, they were friends OP made through his girlfriend and roommates. Or I could be completely off. Who knows? Either way, sometimes you're better off alone than in bad company. Posted by user Throwaway874837, titled, I think my sister-in-law's best friend is trying to get with my husband and she's encouraging it. Am I delusional? My sister-in-law is my husband's half-sister. She was the product of their mother's infidelity. His father divorced their mother when he was 12 after he found out through a paternity test that she wasn't his. My father-in-law refused to have anything to do with my sister-in-law, but continued to have a relationship with my husband, and because of this, my sister-in-law is very clingy to my husband. My husband is also very protective of his sister, and generally doesn't tolerate anything negative being said about her, which is why I'm posting this here before mentioning anything to him. My husband and I bought a house last year, which has its own indoor swimming pool. My sister-in-law was super excited when she saw it and asked if she could use it sometimes with her friends. We said it's fine, as long as she gave us a notice before she turned up. Her and her friend Chloe have used it many times before, but almost never when my husband is home. He's a lawyer and works long hours. With lockdown, my husband has started to work from home. My sister-in-law asked me if she and Chloe could come over and use the pool. I told her I was uncomfortable with them coming over as I'm pregnant and don't want to accidentally expose the baby to anything risky. My sister-in-law then asked if she and Chloe quarantined for 2 weeks, would they be able to come over? And my husband said that it was fine. 2 weeks later, they turn up to my house. My husband was in his office, so they go straight to the swimming pool after making small talk. My husband ends up coming out after an hour, and we're hanging out in the kitchen. My sister-in-law walks in to get a drink, and she starts talking to my husband. Before she goes back to the pool, she says, "Chloe's going to be so happy to see you." It was weird because my husband and Chloe aren't close. Chloe comes into the kitchen 2 minutes later and spends the rest of her time talking to my husband until he excuses himself to get back to work. She's super giggly and smiley when she talks to him. He would say something sarcastic and she would laugh like it was the funniest thing she's ever heard. It honestly felt like she was flirting with him. Before she went back to the pool, she gave me this weird smirky look. Before they leave, they ask my husband if he's working from home every day of the week, and he confirms he is. The next 2 weeks, they come over to the house to swim every single day. Except, Chloe never gets in the water. Instead, she hangs around the house in her bikini. She was previously wearing a one-piece if it makes a difference. Every single day. Whenever my husband comes out to hang around me, she quickly interrupts him and keeps him talking until he has to go back to work. I made lunch for us all, and when I excused myself to call my husband down, my sister-in-law quickly stopped me and said Chloe could call him for me. They shared a look, and Chloe looked really happy when she went to get him. Chloe has also started to get touchier with my husband. She's put her hands on his chest and arms, stands or sits really close to him. To my husband's credit, he does usually create space between them whenever she does something like this. The reason I believe my sister-in-law is in on this is because she's made a few pregnancy-related jabs at me recently. She told me a story about how one of her friend's boyfriends was cheating on her, and then said something along the lines of, "Did you know a lot of men start cheating when their wives are pregnant?" She also made comments about how I look chubby now, and it looks weird next to my husband, because he's well built. If she spots my husband out of the office, she quickly goes to inform Chloe. I know pregnancy hormones can mess with a person's brain, so I'm wondering if I'm looking for something that isn't there. My sister-in-law sent me a text yesterday asking if they could come over to swim next week, and I really want to say no. But I know she'll whine to my husband if I do. I ideally want to have a conversation with him before then, but I'm not sure if I should mention the flirting. Am I being delusional? Nah, girl, nip it in the bud right now. You know what you see and hear. You see the looks between the two, you see her touching him and flirting with him. They only decided to come over every day after they found out that your husband will be there every day. When you bring up this whole thing, don't blame the sister-in-law. Completely blame Chloe. Don't say anything bad about sister-in-law. Let your husband know that you appreciate him creating some distance between him and Chloe, but that you'd like more distance or less talking and touching between them. Or ask him what he wants to do about it. Also, let your husband know that the pregnancy is making you insecure and that they keep making jabs at how big you're getting. You married him for a reason. I'm sure he will understand. If you talk about how Chloe is the issue, it shouldn't bring up any issues with sister-in-law. Also, I would stop telling them what you're going to do regarding your husband. Stop saying, "I'll go get my husband," because that's when sister-in-law steps in and says Chloe will get him. Or, "I'll just bring this to the husband," because Chloe will bring it to him instead. If you're going to get him for lunch, then just go get him. If you're going to bring something for him, then just do it. Don't give them a chance to take over and get alone time with him. Good luck. I'm sure your husband will understand and set some boundaries with her. All of this. Bring up the fact Chloe makes you uncomfortable with her obvious flirting. Don't mention that you think the sister is in on it, and see how he responds from there. Your husband sounds like he's a reasonable man, and obviously doesn't like the attention being shown to him. So bringing it up might give him a sign that he isn't imagining things, and that you're on his side and don't blame him too. I am no longer comfortable with Chloe being here every day after witnessing how she behaves around you. Don't bother mentioning his sister, since he is very protective of her. Just mention Chloe and her lack of boundaries and see how he responds. That will give you a good idea of where he's at and how you should proceed from there. Update. I think my sister-in-law's best friend is trying to get with my husband and she's encouraging it. Am I delusional? Well, I read and reread all of the comments on the original post to try to figure out how I was going to bring up the issue. Turns out I didn't have to. We were watching a movie and my phone lit up with another text from my sister-in-law telling me she's going to be here at 1 p.m. the next day to swim with Chloe. My husband saw it and told me to tell her not to come. This is really weird behavior for my husband because he tends to do anything to accommodate my sister-in-law and very rarely refuses her anything. I asked him if something had happened and he shrugged it off and we kept watching a movie. A few minutes later, he paused the movie and said he wanted to ask me a question. He asked if I'd noticed Chloe never swam when she came to our house. I wish I could say I was calm and collected, like the comments were advising, but I ended up laughing hysterically. I was honestly just so relieved he brought it up instead of me having to be the one to do it. I think my husband thought I was losing my mind. When I finally stopped laughing, he repeated the question and said he wanted a serious answer. I said, "Of course I've noticed," and he awkwardly replied, "So you must have noticed the other things too." To summarize the conversation that followed, my husband hadn't noticed Chloe was flirting with him the first few days because he was so busy with work. He wasn't really paying attention to anything else. He said when she started getting handsy is when he suddenly had the light bulb moment that she was into him. He says he didn't want to unnecessarily stress me out, so he never mentioned anything, but he was worried that I'd noticed too and thought he was interested because he hadn't immediately shut it down. He realized we would eventually have to have this talk, but he wasn't sure how to bring it up. Oh, the irony. He did privately speak to Chloe and told her he was happily married and wasn't interested in starting anything with anyone else. Apparently, she never took him seriously because she kept doing it. In the end, he called his sister on Sunday to tell her either she got her to stop or Chloe couldn't come over anymore. His sister ended up having a tantrum and said a few nasty things about me, the baby, our relationship. She insisted I was somehow behind his request and made some comments about how I was controlling and insecure because I looked like a beached whale, and Chloe was younger and hotter. He was pretty ticked at this and said if she said something like that about me again, he would stop speaking to her. She claimed I'd baby-trapped him, and my husband pointed out that we were already married, so I didn't need to trap him, and that he was the one who wanted to start a family, that she kept insisting I had manipulated him into feeling that way. She claimed he was unhappy in our relationship, and he always looked tired because I was forcing him to slave away to fund my fancy lifestyle, whilst I sat on my ass all day. He pointed out he chose to be a lawyer, knowing he would have to work long hours, and I had only recently left my job, so her accusations were baseless. She said some other stuff along the same lines, but the thing that made my husband finally snap was when she said it, the baby, was already ruining everything, and it was just going to get worse when it was born, and he should have dragged me to the abortion clinic whilst he had the chance. He told her neither her nor Chloe were welcome in our home anymore until they apologized for how they'd been behaving and for the things my sister-in-law said. He said he wasn't sure he could ever forgive or forget what she'd said about our child, even if she did apologize, and he couldn't believe that she would even think something like that, let alone say it. Apparently, she started crying and said she was sorry, that she didn't mean it and she was just scared to lose him and that she wasn't thinking clearly. He hung up on her. He showed me his phone, and she's been calling him and texting him since, begging him to reply. He asked if she'd said anything to me. I was debating whether to say anything or not, but he kept insisting he knew she had said something, and he wanted to know what it was. I told him the things I mentioned in the original post, and a few other things she had said. He asked me why I never mentioned anything when she first said it, and I mentioned how he got really defensive whenever I said anything even slightly negative about his sister, and he got defensive. I pointed out he was doing it again, and after some back and forth he admitted maybe he was a little bit defensive when it came to her. But he promised to stop, and he wanted to make sure that we could talk about anything, including his sister. He ended up mentioning wanting to try couples counseling. He said it wasn't because he thought there was something wrong with our relationship, but apparently he's been speaking to his dad a lot recently, and he mentioned one thing he regretted about his marriage with mother-in-law is that they never went to therapy until the cracks in their relationship were too big. In his current marriage, they go, and it's helped him avoid the mistakes of his first marriage. I agreed, so we're probably going to try that soon. My husband thinks my sister-in-law will eventually turn up, even if we tell her not to, but he promised he'd deal with her if she does. So Reddit, I guess you were right. I really did just need to speak to him. Thanks for the advice and comments. I enjoyed reading them all. This is a good update. A couple communicating honestly that solves a problem and going to therapy for a check-in to help them facilitate better communication in the future. You love to see it. Wishing you and your husband the best, and I hope this means a little less stress for you during your pregnancy. It seems like most conflict in life either stems from or is furthered by lack of communication or dishonesty. Honestly, I feel like if people would just communicate and be straight up with others, the majority of interpersonal conflicts could be avoided entirely. Even touchy stuff like how the husband suggested marriage counseling. A lot of people will be worried like, oh, is he trying to say our marriage has problems? But when you just simply say what you mean and are honest with people, you'll find that usually they're thinking the same thing that you are. Posted by user ThrowRA86535568. Titled, Just found out my best friend has secretly been dating my ex for months. Cassie and I were together for 5 years. We started dating in high school and stayed together through college, moved in together after graduation. I've been in love with her since before our first date. She's amazing, I still think so. We were talking about marriage and starting a family soon. Then one day, a few months ago, Cassie wanted to talk, sat me down, and said she decided she doesn't want kids. She didn't just mean not now, but not ever. She talked a lot about overpopulation or climate change or whatever, but I was just immediately depressed. I always wanted to be a dad. My dad was a piece of crap, and this is something I've wanted to do ever since I was still a kid myself. When she finished talking, I told her it was over. She started crying, and I was already crying, but frick. If she doesn't want the same thing I do in the future, what else can I do? She said she's been thinking this way for years, and the pandemic was the last straw. I'm not going to wait around and hope she changes her mind when she might not. So I moved out and moved in with my best friend Ryan. We've been friends forever. Like, we bonded over Pokemon cards at the playground kind of thing. He's basically my brother, and his mum was my extra mum since I didn't have much at home growing up. I was in a hurry to move out, so I didn't take much stuff with me, and then I didn't want to go back to the apartment to see Cassie, so Ryan was doing the good friend thing and going to get stuff for me whenever I needed it. At least, that's what I thought he was doing. Yesterday would have been me and Cassie's 6th anniversary, and it was really rough for me. So I told Ryan I didn't want to be alone and wanted to hang out and game all day with him. He agreed and everything, but he was kind of distracted on his phone a lot, and after a couple hours he said something came up and he just left me there alone. Crap got dark. I'm not ashamed to say I cried. There were reasons I didn't want to be alone that day. Almost midnight last night, Ryan finally came home and was acting weird, so I asked what was up. I thought maybe his mum was sick or something. She's a teacher at a school that had just reopened. But no. Ryan sits me down and tells me he's moving out. He's been secretly dating Cassie since a few weeks after we split. He says they're in love already and that she needs him more than I do. So he's moving into the apartment with her and leaving me here alone to rot. I don't even know how the F to process this. I don't know which one of them has broken me more. To make things worse, I messaged some of our other friends this morning to tell them what's up, and they already knew. When I got upset, they all said that it was no big deal because I'm the one who broke up with Cassie. Where do I even go from here? I can't talk to my friends, my ex broke my heart, my best friend stomped on it, and the closest thing I have to family is gone because they were his family too. I'm lost and I don't know where else to turn. Updates, bigger crap to worry about than my broken heart, I guess. Ryan texted me, I'm about to be homeless in a pandemic. Based on your edits? Dude, I'm so sorry. I wish I had advice, but I don't. All I can say is, I'm sorry. The fact I can give you, OP, is that this is clearly a deep rut in your life that you cannot change. What you do have control over is how MF hard you come back into society. Deeply think about yourself before anyone else. Not trying to sound narcissistic here, just self-development. And don't let anyone else get in your way or make you feel like that again. It's only up from here, just stay positive. Easier said than done, it will be a challenge, but that's how you become your strongest self. Based on your edits, like others have said, you should focus on getting your housing situation sorted. Far away from these people. Block them from your phone and focus on getting a place to live. Right now, you sound pretty wounded and you need to recoup and heal. Stay away from them, tend to your wounds, treat yourself as something you care deeply about, because these a-holes aren't doing it for you. Take it one day at a time. Ask your parents or relatives if you can bunk with them for some time. Don't waste another second on these scum, OP. I'm a believer in karma, and trust me, they'll get what's coming to them. Until then, resolve the rooming situation. Chin up, OP. You got this, bro. Sounds like OP's family sucks and has never been there for him. Probably not an option. Update. Just found out my best friend has secretly been dating my ex for months. I kind of debated if I'd post an update on this or not. It's been a few weeks and some stuff has happened, but as the post blew up, I got a good number of really crappy comments that informed me I was a worthless piece of crap, that I should beat up my ex-girlfriend, or alternately, that I was probably already some kind of horrible abuser who hated her and wanted to control her body. I also got a ton of love, support, PMs offering connections on housing, and more. But being I was already in a dark and desperate place, those other comments really twisted the knife. I had to spend some time away not just fixing my crap, but also avoiding that stuff, because it was really not making me want to move forward. For anyone who's reading this while in the middle of a situation, wondering if you should post your story, my advice is, don't. Wait till you have some distance, or it's just going to make things worse. One thing I want to clarify here, since a few people swung for the fences based on what I posted, I don't hate Cassie. I don't think she shouldn't move on. I don't blame her for dating someone else after I broke up with her. I do have a lot of anger still thinking about this. All that anger is at Ryan. That's it. Ryan is the one who lied to me and went behind my back, not Cassie. My post pretty clearly stated that I think Cassie is an awesome human being. Still think so. Period. We just wanted different things. So, actual updates. Shortly after I posted, Ryan texted me to say that he'd planned to give me a month to find somewhere else to live, but since I couldn't be happy for them, he wanted me out by Friday. Looking back on it, I kinda think this was his plan all along. Cassie's parents owned the apartment I lived in with her, so we paid bills on it, but no rent. Ryan's apartment was expensive, and his parents still had some of his bills there, so I suspect he was looking for an excuse to break his lease and get in on that free rent instead. But I have a place to live now. Reddit helped me out after all in a weird way. A couple days after I posted, this guy TJ hit me up on Facebook. Hey TJ, with the link to my post asking if it was me. TJ and I weren't close friends before all this, but he recognized some of the details. Skipping some back and forth, it turns out Ryan lied to all our mutual friends about the situation. Apparently, he hooked up with Cassie the first time about a week after we split up. He asked some of our friends what to do, and they all told him to make sure I was cool first thing. He then told them he had talked to me and that I was happy for him. So when I started freaking out a couple months later, my friends all thought that I was going crazy out of nowhere over something I'd known about for months. Once they found out what really happened, I got a lot of apology texts. Some of them I've accepted, some are still on read. A couple of guys offered me crash space or help moving, and I wound up staying with TJ, but only until I could find somewhere else. My days living in places without my name on a lease are over. Learned my lesson there. I found a roommate looking for a place through Craigslist, and we signed the lease last week. Moving from TJ's happens this weekend. Ryan is blocked out of my life. I probably forgot some of his stuff at either his place or Cassie's, but it's whatever. I can get new stuff. I can get new friends. More than anything else, this situation made me realize the importance of having stable, independent housing and not counting on anyone else to do the right thing by me. I have to have my own back in life, not rely on others. That's about all I've got. It's nothing dramatic, I guess. No one was hit by a car, got pregnant, or turned out to be cheating. But I've never been so glad to have a roof over my head and a bed to come back to. I'm gonna keep going from here, keep working on life, and I'm sure as hell gonna be taking a break on the dating front. That's all there is to do. Props to TJ for being such a bro. Also, good luck with your future endeavors, and I hope you make some amazing friends in the future. Damn, TJ, I know you're reading this one too, and you're a hell of a person for recognizing and reaching out to a friend in need. Kudos, man. Stuff like this teaches you who your real friends are. Sorry you went through it, but we all experience some version of this. That doesn't make it suck less, and I think it's kind of the process of sifting your friends from your acquaintances. Good move getting your name on the lease. Good luck, though I don't think you need it. Thanks. One of the best things to come out of this so far is definitely the friend stuff. I didn't know TJ all that well before, even though he was in my group. Now, we've hung out a lot more, of course, and it turns out that he's a really cool dude. He's had my back the last couple weeks when no one else was willing to step up. This experience has changed my perspective on a lot of crap. This is actually a dramatic change, whether you realize it or not. To be as young as you are, you've realized the value and importance of making your own security. It took me until my 40s to see that. Bad marriage, financial abuse, etc. So for you to understand that now is monumental. As far as the site goes, there's always people looking to troll and kick you when you're down. It's just more prevalent in an anonymous community. The fact that an acquaintance recognized your story and reached out to you should still give you some hope for humanity and that there are more good people than bad. I'm so glad you've got everything worked out, and I hope you are happy. I appreciate these words, friend. I hope things are looking up for you too. Posted by user ThrowRaceYaya2828, titled, My boyfriend's friends called me a Butterface and my boyfriend co-signed. So I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years. I thought he was attracted to me, all of me. He's never called me ugly and always compliments me with or without makeup. Last night he brought his friends over. I'm cool with them, but we're not that close, so usually when they do come over to play video games and smoke, I go upstairs. That night, when I was walking past the room to the bathroom, I could hear my name. The door was closed, but I stopped to listen. I know that eavesdropping is wrong, but come on, they said my name. I heard one of my boyfriend's friends say that they hate that I always leave when they come because I wear shorts and a tank top around the house and usually dress more conservatively when I'm around them in social settings. He went on to say that I have a fat ass and nice boobs, but I'm a butterface without makeup. If you don't know, it's when a girl has a nice body, but her face. And my boyfriend laughed, loudly. He didn't even defend me. His reply? Her body is perfect. What? They moved on to a different topic and started talking about other girls, so I gave up on listening and went back upstairs. I don't think I'm ugly, but I did cry. I'm ashamed to say my self-esteem took a hit, but it did. It hurt worse to know that my boyfriend laughed and then didn't defend my looks. I won't lie and say I'm the best supermodel, but I'm not ugly. I have shoulder-length brown hair, clear skin, and features are decent. Maybe my eyebrows could be less sparse and I wear glasses, but I would give myself a solid 6 out of 10 without makeup and maybe an 8 with. Maybe I'm just delusional. I felt sick sleeping next to my boyfriend and wouldn't let him touch me. He's attracted to my body and not my face. I hate myself low-key. I'm 22, he's 25. Honestly, friend, I think you'll have a hard time moving past this. I think even when you doll up and look your best, you'll wonder if he even thinks that you look pretty, and it'll rob you of your self-esteem. That comment will be an intrusive thought that pops up for the rest of your relationship. You deserve a man who thinks you're a 10 even when you feel like a 6 or an 8. And that's the thing. There are probably lots of guys out there who are just as nice and cool as your boyfriend and who will love your body just as much, but who will also think your face is pretty and who doesn't laugh when his friends talk crap about you. He's not abusive. That's great, but you're still allowed to decide that you want more from a partner than what he's giving you. It's such a low bar for boyfriends when saying he isn't abusive is a compliment. I can't even imagine a friend of mine talking about my girlfriend like that openly. I would say that he doesn't respect you. If anyone said something like that about my partner, they'd be invited to leave and never come back. You come into their house and want to perv on his partner, and then insult her? So many boundaries crossed. Invited to leave? No. I'd finally get to achieve my bucket list of tossing someone out my door like a bouncer. Girl, you're better than me because I would have popped my head in there so quick. Right? Him and all his douchey little friends would have definitely heard from me, lol. OP, find someone that will love and respect every little bit of you, and not just to your face behind closed doors. Imagine chatting such crap about me in my own house. I would have called them an Uber and carried them outside myself. Updates: my boyfriend's friends called me a Butterface and my boyfriend co-signed. I wasn't expecting to get so many replies. I read every single one and I want to thank you all. Breaking up wasn't even a thought on my mind, but seeing men saying they wouldn't allow their friends to say that and women saying they wouldn't tolerate that helped me be more confident in bringing it up to my boyfriend because I wasn't planning on it. Last night, I sat him down and I told him that I overheard his conversation with his friends and how what they said was really hurtful, and it stung worse that he didn't defend me and just laughed. At first, he denied it ever happened, and I got upset and almost cried because I felt so frustrated. Then he admitted it and said it was just a dumb joke and he forgot about it 5 minutes later. Then he said that his friends' opinions wouldn't matter so much to me if I didn't care about their thoughts on my physical appearance. I said I don't care what they think. It's the fact that they said it and you sat there and laughed. He said that he finds me attractive if that's what I want to hear so badly, and that if my friends said that he was a Butterface, he wouldn't care because he isn't attracted to them, and since I care, I must have some sort of attraction to his friends. I got up and said that we're done. How is he just going to flip this on me and make it seem like I want to be with his friends because their comment upset me? His reaction is what upset me. He said that if I'm breaking up with him because his friends think I'm unattractive, then I'm doing him the biggest favor of his life. So, we're over. I'm moving in with my sister in her spare guest room. I'm so heartbroken. His reaction wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I don't want to end things with him thinking I like his friends, but I guess it is what it is. I'm moving on. He doesn't care about me, and I wasted 2 years over him. It's whatever. I'm not interested in dating now, but there is plenty more fish in the sea. Edit. Wow, thanks for so many awards. I'm actually shocked by all these responses. He found out about this post and sent it to me saying that I'm insecure for going to Reddit for my relationship problems. He said he's going to sue for slander, but I didn't say his name. He cussed me out in multiple messages and I blocked him. To all the positive comments, thank you for your support. All your kind words helped me through all the crying that I was doing yesterday. To all the negative comments saying that I'm ugly and weak for ending things over something so stupid, I'm sorry. But my peace of mind and not feeling like crap every time I'm around a guy is way more important to me than being in a relationship. All the incels making dumb sandwich jokes and saying misogynistic comments because they're upset I broke up with him, I understand someone ending a relationship, something you'll never experience, is unfathomable to you. so I won't get too upset by your dumb comments. Wow, good job catching him trying to be manipulative. It sucks that it turned out this way, but I think you did the right thing. What's even worse? We haven't even scratched the surface of his friends objectifying her body. They're saying they'd wish she'd hang around so that they could check out her ass and boobs, and he's fine with that. He absolutely does not respect OP. F that dude. OP, he doesn't really think that you're into his friends. That was just his crappy attempt at making this your fault. You have nothing to feel bad about. Absolutely this. He's just trying to manipulate the situation. Abso-fudging-lutely. It's his way of doing mental gymnastics to save himself from being the bad guy in the breakup. When friends ask him what happened, he'll play victim and say, "Oh, she was a crazy bear. Turns out she wanted to sleep with all my friends." I'm glad OP left. That takes guts. For real, textbook gaslighting. I'm so sorry, OP, that you're hurting, but better 2 years than 10. You'll be okay. You sound like an absolutely lovely being, inside and out. You are so brave. Wonderful things are coming your way. Damn, it must have been really hard wasting 2 years of your life with a dude that couldn't even say sorry my friends are a-holes. Instead of, sorry for laughing, it's, well, this is your fault for wanting to F my friends. Screw that manipulative tool. You are so much better off. Time is not wasted if OP has learned about herself, what she's looking for, what she wants and doesn't want, and to stand up for herself. Posted by user ThrowRA titled, "My girlfriend's sex drive has completely disappeared." Pretty much the title. I'm very concerned about her at this point and I have no idea what to do. Back in April-ish, we were having sex 2 to 3 times a day. We live in an apartment together and she's been taking online classes for her masters, and I'm working from home since the lockdown started. At some point, she got really busy and tired with the project, so we obviously stopped having sex temporarily. Since it's gotten over though, which was nearly 4 months ago at this point, she's turned me down every time I've tried to initiate or set the mood for sex. I have never pressured her. I usually wait a couple of nights before asking again, and she tells me she's not in the mood. Which turned into waiting a week, which turned into waiting 2 weeks. At this point, I'm really concerned. We've never gone anywhere near 4 months without sex before. We've both always had pretty high sex drives. At this point, it's important to note that I do not press the matter or pressure or pester her in any way. The moment she says not in the mood, I back off immediately. I don't think I've screwed up anywhere because she's always quite apologetic when she turns me down. Our relationship is pretty much perfect in every other way too. We cuddle and hug and have game nights and movie nights. It has never felt like we're drifting apart at any point. She hasn't been behaving differently, like she's upset or depressed. We give each other plenty of space too. It's not like we're constantly together. We have our own friend circles and we curl up on our own devices from time to time. I've tried talking to her about it, but she gets really upset and keeps insisting that nothing is wrong. I drop the matter pretty quickly too because I don't want her to feel like I'm pressuring her to have sex. I just want her to let me in and tell me what's wrong. I honestly don't care about the sex, but I know there's something she's not telling me and it's gone on long enough that I'm getting extremely worried about her. If I was in your place, I too wouldn't pressure her for sex, but I damn well would pressure her for an explanation. From 2 to 3 times a day to not at all for 4 months? I would need answers, even if she was upset at having the conversation. It's okay to want or not want things in a relationship, but not communicating is not okay. Thanks for the response. I don't want her to feel pressured or accused of anything, but I do want an explanation. Do you have any advice on how I can be sort of firm, but also make her feel comfortable at the same time? Honestly, if it's not something she wants to discuss, she's not going to do it calmly and rationally. She's going to get upset and try to skirt the issue. I would prepare for the fight and dig out why this is happening. She's gotten away with it for so long because it sounds like you love her, and that gives her the ability to dictate terms. If you can live with no sex and no explanation forever to be with her, more power to you. Otherwise, figure it out sooner than later. Depressed Ghost says, I'm a woman who went from high libido to very low libido, and let me tell you, I don't know why. I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to figure it out. I feel bad for my boyfriend. I have a lot of mental health issues, so I think that might be why, and I'm looking for a therapist to talk about it. You can push for an answer, but unfortunately there just might not be one yet. Honestly, while I was reading it, I thought, he just needs to have a good conversation with her about it. But then you said that she refuses to talk about it. Just asking, is there any possibility that you brought up the topic in a way that felt uncomfortable to her? It's the only thing that I can think of. I mean, if your sexual activity changed that much, it's impossible for her not to notice it. If you are 100% honest with your writing, I would be worried in your place too, because the first thing that comes to mind is some kind of traumatic experience. I would say just try to keep calm, and if she really doesn't like you bringing up the subject, just keep giving her the space to talk about things without necessarily asking directly. Hope everything is okay, friend. Cheers. OP replies, I keep worrying about a traumatic experience too. But what? We almost never leave home because of the pandemic. One of us goes occasionally to get groceries, but that's about it. I'm honestly at a loss and she's not talking to me about it. Yeah, it seems weird. I mean, maybe it's just a change in her libido. I don't know. Maybe it's frustrating for her too, and that's why she gets upset when you try to bring out the subject. I'd say if every other aspect of your relationship is good, just try to keep not pressuring her. Maybe if you see drastic changes in other aspects of her behavior or relationships with people, you can try to dig deeper, in a way that she feels comfortable. You're doing the right thing by not pressuring her, so keep doing that. Your needs are important too though, so you should continue trying to have a conversation about it. Just make sure you're being gentle and don't bring it up at a time when you're trying to initiate sex. Make sure she knows you care about her and are concerned and want to understand and help, because this is definitely a big change. You should let her know how you feel about not having sex and that it's important to you in the relationship, but be nice about it. Tell her that you miss having sex with her, not just in general. Make it about we and not about me to avoid giving her the impression that if she doesn't have sex with you soon, you might be out the door. It doesn't sound like that's where you're at, but you know, this is a sensitive topic, so you want to make sure that she feels as secure as possible. It's concerning that she gets upset when you do try to have a conversation about it. I don't suggest snooping, and I wouldn't assume cheating. It sounds like she's having internal struggles about this. Did something happen right before this issue started? Someone else suggested a traumatic experience. It's possible that she's dealing with something from her past that is for some reason now coming up or causing her distress. It's also possible she's feeling depressed or anxious, even if you haven't noticed. Some people are able to hide it from others and function mostly normally while still suffering inside. Has her body changed at all? Could she be feeling insecure? Other than that, do you know her love language, and are you communicating with that? I would suggest a date night where you take care of her. Cook her a nice meal, let her pick a movie, make her a bath if you have a bathtub, or give her a massage, and then don't ask for sex. Just make her feel cared for without the expectation of sex. See how it goes, be patient and gentle, and best of luck. Thank you so much. I think this is the best advice I've gotten so far. I'm going to tell her that I don't mind giving her space and time till she's ready to talk about it, but I'm going to ask her to acknowledge that there's at least something that she's not telling me, if only for my own reassurance that I'm not going crazy. Other than that, you're right. I haven't done something special for her in a while because we've both been busy. This weekend I'm just going to go big. Not a proposal or anything. I know that would be inappropriate. I'm not stupid. Just a really big treat for her. Wish me luck. Update: my girlfriend's sex drive has completely disappeared. Thanks to everyone who replied to my previous post. There were some mixed responses, with some people suggesting I insist on addressing it with her because she's hiding something, with others recommending I give her time to open up on her own. Ultimately, I decided to sort of go for a combo of the two. Friday, when we were both done with work, we sat down and had a discussion. I told her that I could give her the space and time she needed till she was ready to talk to me about it, but I couldn't leave it unaddressed. She needed to acknowledge that there at least was something that she didn't feel ready to tell me, and that was fine. But she at least needed to acknowledge its existence, if only so I stopped feeling like I was going crazy. She started sobbing when I was done, and then she started explaining everything. Some background that I didn't mention in my previous post because it didn't really seem relevant is that my girlfriend has PCOD. One of the consequences of this is that she finds it very difficult to lose weight and has been insecure about her body for most of her life. About a year ago, completely of her own choice, I've always told her that she's beautiful to me no matter what her weight, she resolved to start losing weight, both for her health and to feel better about her body. She started going to the gym a couple of times a week, and I was supportive, and also cut out all of my own junk food consumption in solidarity. Since the lockdown started and gyms shut, apparently she started slowly gaining some weight back due to stress eating and lack of exercise. I am ashamed to say I did not even notice that she was torturing herself over her weight all this while. She admitted that she stopped having sex because she was terrified I would stop finding her attractive after seeing her naked. I reassured her that I think she's gorgeous and attractive no matter what, and I tell her this every day, but she was afraid that would have changed once I saw the weight she had put on. The rest of the conversation consisted of me reassuring her that she's beautiful and her appreciating, but not really believing me. After a bit, she asked me to change the topic, and I reluctantly agreed. We had a fairly quiet dinner. She was a little sad and relieved at the same time at having told me, I think, and I was busy scheming. The next morning before work, I told her she looked lovely again, and she gave me a wan smile, like she appreciated it, but didn't really believe me. But that was okay. I was gonna convince her. I asked her to pick up the groceries that evening because I was gonna have a meeting run late. The moment she left home, I got to work. I dug out some fairy lights and a bunch of candles from storage and started setting them up in the living room. I made a couple of playlists and changed the speaker. I snuck down to the florist and bought a giant bouquet. Some more background. I hate dancing because I suck massively at it, while my girlfriend loves it. She used to go dancing every month or two with her girlfriends before lockdown. I'd join in sometimes because it was worth how happy it made her, but she definitely missed it way more than me. So when she got back, naturally, I greeted her with what were probably the most ridiculous dance moves in the history of mankind. I'm not gonna lie, folks, she laughed. She laughed a lot. She took a short video, and we both laughed while watching it later. My movement resembled a 5-year-old practicing kung fu more than it resembled dancing, and I had stuck a rose in my ear for maximum ridiculousness. Totally worth it, though. I have no idea how she ever thought she's ugly. Her smile is just so fudging radiant. We danced like idiots for a while before I switched to the slow dance playlist. It was definitely the happiest I'd seen her in a long time. I had been a bad boyfriend, and somehow missed how much she missed everything else. I should have done it months ago. I told her all this. Told her she's the most beautiful woman in my eyes, and always will be. And yeah, we had sex. Last night was all about her. She needed to feel special, and I had been missing that for far too long. I offered to make dance nights a weekly thing afterwards, kind of as a substitute for the workouts she's been missing, if she wants. She tore up a little. She knows how much I hate dancing, and she told me that that wasn't necessary. Apparently, sex is just as much of a workout as dancing, and we have a lot of missed workouts to catch up on. I'm certainly not complaining. In all seriousness though, I'm gonna dip into my savings a little and order a home treadmill. She can't afford one right now because of college bills, so I'll surprise her with that. Thank you to everyone who helped me out with their advice. Posted by user ThrowRA Sabotaged. Titled, My 33 male, wife, 25 female, constantly makes a conscious effort to humiliate me during my lessons over Zoom. While under normal circumstances, I would try to communicate my feelings to my wife, I am at my wit's end for how to handle this situation, as I've exhausted all of the typical conflict resolution means. Being a teacher, I'm currently giving lessons over Zoom. I recognize that studying math over Zoom isn't the most exciting thing in the world for students, and I can barely get them to even pretend to be interested in my lessons when we're in the classroom. But they have done an admirable job of staying focused. My wife is making it extremely difficult on my end, though. Several months ago, when my lessons began, I went from working long hours to being at home all day. Unfortunately, my wife does not seem to understand that while I'm at home, and while I can occasionally help out with a chore or two, I still have actual work to do. Between lesson prep, grading, and meetings, my schedule is quite full. The first time she interrupted my lesson, she abruptly opened the door to the room where I was teaching and loudly asked me to do the dishes. This was unbelievably awkward, as I was in the middle of teaching 3 dozen 10th graders geometry. I told her we would talk about it later, but not being deterred, she asked if that was a yes or a no. I said that it was a yes, but that I was in the middle of a lesson. Without a word, she closed the door. I got some chuckles from the students, but a bit of red-cheeked embarrassment was the extent of the damage. The next time, 2 days later, she again barged in holding a pair of my pants that I left on the floor of our bedroom. She loudly stated, "You need to pick up after yourself." This time, before responding, I muted my mic and turned off my camera, telling her that I was in the middle of a lesson. Again, she walked away without a word. At this point, I moved my setup into the basement of our house so that I could avoid further interruption. Since my basement looked like it probably has a few dead bodies buried in it, my students have begun to call me Basement Dad, which is endearing, but I would rather teach in a room where I'm not going to get asbestos in my lungs. The trouble really began when I started locking the door to prevent interruptions. My wife will begin by rattling the door a few times, followed by pounding on it. Then she'll groan loudly and say something negative about me. After that, I can hear her walking around the house, slamming doors. A few weeks ago, she was literally jumping up and down, stomping her feet in the room above mine. In the first month of these online lessons, I set up a hotkey to mute my mic and disable my camera instantly when needed. And luckily, my reflexes honed from Counter-Strike in my teens has paid off. But there have been times where she's sneaked in an embarrassing moment for me. Every time, I have patiently explained to her that I need complete quiet to teach my lessons. And she says, yeah, okay. Then in the next lesson, without fail, she will find something new to complain about and throw a tantrum, trying to humiliate me in front of my students. While my mute game is on point, students have recognized something wrong. One of my 9th graders even sent me an email asking if everything was okay. I had to make up a lame excuse about needing to mute my mic because of a sudden grinding noise that happens in my old basement. There is no way she bought that. Since I'm unable to go out, unable to even enter the school grounds, and have no place to go to avoid my wife, I'm unbelievably anxious when I teach. I've tried talking to her calmly, and I've even tried to get angry at her. When I yelled at her for forcefully sliding plastic files under the door so that they would float down in the background during my lessons, she expected me to apologize for getting angry at her. How can I even approach this kind of problem? I had a coworker with a wife that was super controlling and sadly very embarrassing to him. She has issues, and we are aware of it as a department. He was a wonderful worker, and I have no complaints of his ethics, but his wife can cause serious damage. She calls and harasses our office lines if she can't get a hold of him. If a female answers the office line, it's an automatic cheating and mistress belief. She was an absolute Karen. She got calmed back when the line was accidentally transferred to a board member who was also female. Some colourful words were said, and the board held her cards till the end, revealed her role, and said due to her actions, her husband can be up for suspension and corrective action. She begged and stopped calling and harassing. She was a stay-at-home wife whose world revolved around her husband, who was already checked out in trying to stop her. He did get reprimanded too, but at least it was a reality check for his wife. Edit: forgot to mention, he worked 2 jobs to support his wife, even though he lives frugally. OP, you need to be more stern. Normally I won't condone snapping back, but if your wife kept doing that, it would have been a mute the mic/cam, and what the hell is wrong with you comment to her. Explain that you can get fired, get in trouble, even if it's not true, but being a teacher, your public persona as a positive role model is a huge deal at your work. That even harmless jokes and pranks can have consequences. Also, they pay you for the hours at work to work, not do chores. If she needs anything, to text you and you will get to it on break or after work hours. You gotta put a hard, stern boundary. Since she's acting like a child, it's time to scold her like one. I forgot to add, people mentioned PPD, since you have an 8-month-old. Have this discussion with your doc on the next appointment. If she is overwhelmed with the chores, see if you can hire a relative or a day babysitter for 2 to 3 hours 2 times a week to help out with the house chores or grocery runs that your wife can't do. There will be lots of college or high school students willing to earn the extra cash and even learn some housework or two. Having another person in the house may deter her from throwing tantrums. Super helpful edit. Dr. Holistic 5 made a great point in her comment as she works in the educational sector. Most schools do have a code of conduct policy inside and outside of the classrooms for both faculty and students, regardless if you are in the school or outside. Being we are in a world of cancel culture, his wife's actions may pose a serious threat to OP's job, especially if either of them snaps and is caught on camera. Yeah, I heard a story of a guy at work that had a similar problem. His wife would call all the time, beg him to come home, have all kinds of problems that she couldn't deal with, and he was really suffering because of it. I have a family member who works for a very high-paying company. They applied to be a graphic designer, but there were no openings for that at the time, and so they took a generic office clerk job. It does pay decent to be sure, with the promise that there were tons of opportunities for growth and probably a transition into graphics department was in the future. Then their spouse pulled all this same kind of stuff, and literally 16 years later, they are still a clerk, and effectively have been told that due to their partner's bullcrap, they can stay a clerk indefinitely or move to a different company. Update. My wife constantly makes a conscious effort to humiliate me during my lessons over Zoom. My first lesson after making that post, my wife went straight back to her old antics. I was in the lesson room as students gradually joined, talking to a student who was interested in luxury cars. At some point during the conversation, I said, yeah, I think I'd have to go with a Lamborghini there. I heard from behind the door in the basement where I was teaching, Lamborghini, in a sarcastic, exaggerated tone of voice that kids will use to mock you. I realized she was being childish again, but figured she would eventually tire herself out. A few minutes after the lesson started, I used the word circumference to describe a word problem. I then heard, circumference, from behind the door at the top of the stairs, followed by giggling. Since the timing was right, as I was about to have students take a shot at a problem, I set them to the task, muted my mic and disabled my camera, and quietly crept up the stairs. I suddenly opened the door to find my wife with a cup over her ear pushed against the door so she could hear me. I whisper-shouted at her for her behavior for about a minute. I asked if she was 5 years old and what the hell was wrong with her. She feigned fear and shock as if I had held her against the wall with my hands wrapped around her throat, which just made me sigh and go back downstairs to finish my lesson. For the rest of the lesson, she was quiet, But after it, I went upstairs to bring up what she did. She started asking if I was going to yell at her again. I responded that I wouldn't, and I tried to get back on topic, but no matter what I said about her behavior, her response was the same. When I brought up her stomping in the room above before, she said, "Are you going to yell at me again?" When I brought up her sliding plastic files under the door during a lesson before, "Oh, are you going to yell at me again?" When I brought up anything she has done during lessons, the answer was the same over and over again. There is absolutely no way to broach the topic with her now. I called her doctor and said that her behavior is erratic, and that she might have PPD. The doctor said that he could ask about it when she came in, but there is nothing much else that he could do. The next day, I tried to sit my wife down for a calm discussion about the possibility of her having PPD, to which she responded she had PTSD from my abusive shouting. Right. When I suggested therapy together, she said, "Oh, to fix your anger management problems? Sounds good." I teach in my car in front of a Starbucks now. Outside of lesson time, we haven't really had any issues. And now that I'm outside the house teaching, we are strained but stable. I know this is not a very satisfactory outcome, but I think she has deep underlying issues that are going to need professional intervention. When I said I would happily go to therapy with her to find a solution to our communication issues, she told me that I should go alone. I think that may actually be a good step, because having a neutral party to listen to my worries and guide me towards better de-escalation tactics would be highly beneficial. I could also try to entice her to join gradually. You may have found a workaround for this particular instance. However, whatever the underlying problem is, it is still there. You should continue to insist on her telling you why it is she feels the need to try and embarrass you. If you don't find and deal with this root problem, she's going to continue to act out in different ways. Mark my words, she will find another way to undermine and belittle you. Don't let this go. Also, be fair to yourself. You don't have a communication issue, you have a "your wife is an a-hole" issue. You can go to therapy if you want, but I don't think therapists fix that, and particularly not if she isn't there. You need to deal with this. Maybe the right therapist can give you some advice, but you have to be the one to really put the work into getting her to talk to you about why she's pulling these idiot stunts. It might be beneficial for OP to record a video of himself saying everything he needs to, clearly and calmly, and sending it to his wife. I have done this in the past with my husband, who doesn't really hear me in these moments. He's too focused on his rebuttal, and he walks away from it with the completely wrong message and tone. Like, "You yelled at me the whole time," when all I did was express my feelings. With a video, they can replay it and understand the message, and there is also evidence of exactly what you said and that you were calm. I'm not saying this is the best solution, but it can be worth a try. Going to therapy yourself is a good start, but the problem is with her and won't get better if she doesn't recognize and address it, so if it continues, draw a line and tell her she has to address her sudden regression to third-grade behavior with a professional, or you will file for divorce. Yes, especially when she's deflecting to the point that she calls your behavior abusive. You need to be careful. For real, sounds like the type of person who will hurt themselves, call the cops and say he did it. I saw the original post. Yes, go to the therapy alone. Your therapist might have some good strategies, or be able to point you towards more resources, all the while ensuring you don't go mad yourself dealing with this. I'm sorry for you having to deal with this. This is what I'm hoping for now. A large part of therapy is for me. I'm well overdue. On the other hand, I would like to see what a licensed therapist has to say about my wife's behavior. OP, my father was a doormat for a wife like this. I cannot tell you the indescribable damage it had when he stayed with her, as in lives destroyed. If she won't go to therapy, you can't fix her. Think about it. You are teaching in your car. The thing is, mental health providers can't commit her because of that. she has to be willing to go, and she won't, because she likely has some form of personality disorder none of us are qualified to diagnose. So the only logical thing you can do is, if she refuses to go to therapy to fix herself, is to begin thinking about divorce. You are doing the thing us women do too, trying to fix a partner that can't be fixed, because they don't change. Our next post is by user ThrowRA Keep It Because Secret, titled, My 26 male, brother 29 male, is married to and cheating on my best friend 26 female, and I'm conflicted if I should say anything. My best friend Pam and my brother Jim got married 2 years ago. I recently discovered that Jim is cheating on Pam with a college friend of mine. Said friend posted a picture of my brother's back laying in bed with her on Snapchat. I'm assuming most people thought that it was some random guy, but Jim has a tattoo of my and my younger sister's name on his left shoulder. I immediately confronted him and demanded an explanation, and he admitted that he's been having an affair for the last 2 months. I was appalled, but decided to not tell due to Jim's pleading. I've been having a very hard time choosing to stay quiet or not. I didn't have a great childhood. My dad was out of the picture, Mum was there but had some mental health issues that had rendered her, let's just say, unable to be fully attentive. Jim stepped up. He served as a parent for so much of my life. He practically raised me and my sister. If not for him being in my life, honestly, I probably would have starved to death or ended up on the streets. I don't think I can just betray him like that. On the other hand, Pam is my best friend. We've been friends since we were 17. If my girlfriend had been cheating on me and Pam knew, she'd tell me. She deserves to know what Jim is doing, but I'm unsure if I can out Jim like this. What should I do? The side chick is literally posting pictures of him. This won't stay a secret for long. Your best friend deserves to know. She could get an STD or something. The fact that your brother basically raised you means nothing. He's still a crappy person for cheating. Tell your brother he needs to come clean, or you will have to do it yourself. If she finds out that you knew and didn't tell her, even if Jim ends up telling her, it'll damage the friendship forever. If Jim was really sorry, he would be making it right with his wife and either end the marriage, end the side hustle, or ask his wife to open up their relationship. He's made his bed and he can lie in it. Agreed. Your options are potentially ruining your friendship versus what? Not covering for someone's lie just so they can keep doing it? Jim is capitalizing on your soft spot for him and coercing you into not saying anything simply because he doesn't want to face the repercussions of his hurtful actions. Not because there's any other valid reason for him to be lying. His only interest is making sure that he doesn't get caught and having to deal with the consequences. And it's cheeky to be making his crappy choices your problem. No, definitely not on the open marriage. As someone that had an open marriage and absolutely prefers non-monogamy, bringing this up after cheating is so inauthentic, it's disgusting, and it's definitely a way to just continue his crappy ways. A true open relation desire requires, and already would have, discussion about it. Tell her. She will be crushed after this betrayal. If you tell her, at least she knows that someone chose her over this cheater. As much as I want to agree, a lot of the time the messenger is actually the one that gets cut out of the picture, not the cheater. Be careful if you're the person that has to tell your friend. It could backfire. Unless you have a screenshot of that picture as hard evidence, still. If Jim really did do a good job at parenting you when you were young, prove it to him by not putting up with his bullcrap. Update, my brother is married to and cheating on my best friend, and I'm conflicted if I should say anything. Thanks for all the help I got in my last post. As much as it pained me to do so, I decided to do the right thing. Pam should know that my brother is cheating on her. I decided to give Jim a chance. I called him and told him that I can't keep this secret. It was tearing me up inside to do so. I couldn't think about anything else. I told him I loved him so much, but I couldn't let him do this to someone else that I loved like family. He begged me to reconsider. He didn't try to guilt trip me or anything, but he did say that he needs his younger brother to just be there for him. I told him I couldn't. I asked him what he would want if it was me getting cheated on or our little sister getting cheated. He said that he understood that it's wrong, but he was just exploring himself. I told him that that's no excuse. I told him that he had until that evening to tell Pam, and if he didn't, I would have to. We then hung up and I just waited. At 11 p.m., I called Pam and struck up a normal conversation. I asked her how things were with my brother, and she said it was fine and all that. They were thinking about having kids. I really couldn't believe my brother made me do this, but I had to tell her. I told her what I saw. She was livid. She refused to believe me. Luckily, I was able to show her the screenshot of my brother being in someone else's bed. She then told me that she needed to hang up. I haven't heard anything from my brother, but as of today, Pam is leaving him. So I guess that's good. She won't have to be hurt by him like that, and I can be there for her. My brother hasn't answered any of my calls or texts, so I don't know when we'll talk again. At least I still have Pam and my sister, I guess. Posted by user ThrowRA Knowledge. Titled, My girlfriend tried to push me off a cliff as a joke. So, my girlfriend, 20 female, is completely crazy, but mostly in a good way. Spontaneous is an understatement. Sometimes she goes too far, but I love her for her crazy personality. I, 18 male, am more relaxed and we balance each other out. 2 recent incidents really freaked me out though, and I need advice. I was driving on the highway with a lot of traffic. We were going maybe 40 miles per hour, and she suddenly started tickling me and wouldn't stop when I yelled at her. I jammed on the brake and someone almost hit us from behind. I asked her what the F is wrong with her, but she just laughed about it and told me to chill. I said, "What would make you want to do that?" And she said, "I don't know, just felt like it." Then last Saturday, I was hiking with her, and I was standing near this steep cliff. I'm usually very wary of her because you never know what she's going to do, even though it's usually just a prank or something. I let my guard down, and she went behind me and pushed me toward the cliff, and I swear I almost fell off. She did it hard, and I ended up right at the edge. She was laughing so hard. I freaked out and started screaming at her, and I may have been out of line, but holy crap. She laughed about it at first, but then she started crying and saying that she was sorry. The next day she started texting me saying that she didn't mean any harm, and she just didn't know that I would get so mad at her for doing that. Am I crazy for even thinking about this? Is it possible she's just immature, and if I get back with her she'll be different? I'm kind of lonely, and I really love her, but this just really made me rethink the situation, because now I feel like she's legit crazy, not just fun crazy. Thank you for your advice. My advice is, never stick your dick in crazy. You're 18, there's time to learn about it, and look, it almost killed you. Your girlfriend has a serious problem, especially seeing you say that she gave an allergic friend nuts because she thought she was funny is just frightening. This is not normal. This isn't even considered crazy personality. She has serious mental health issues that need to be professionally addressed. I'd be worried she's a sociopath. She obviously enjoys endangering other people's life to the point that she keeps doing it over and over again. One day she will actually kill someone. Yeah, this seems like someone who pushes boundaries for fun and their own enjoyment. It seems like she was only sorry because she was getting yelled at, not because she realized how dangerous that was. Trying to feed someone a nut they're allergic to is like subtly attempting to murder. What the F is wrong with her? Or that she was only sorry because she knew that was the only way to keep OP around for her next attempt at murdering him. I could be reading too much into it, but OP said, saying that she didn't mean any harm and she just didn't know that I would get so mad at her. Sounds like she didn't apologize for doing any of these things. She apologized for getting caught. Bruh, she tried to kill you twice, then proceeded to laugh about it. The next time you might not be here to tell the story. This. Some things you can forgive, and some things you can still forgive, but are obligated to walk away. You are obligated to you to walk away. Just walk backwards so that you would face her all the time. Better yet, run. Run backwards, but not near any cliffs or in a car or with scissors. A friend of mine died while camping when he tripped on a rock and fell off a cliff. He was an organ donor, and his body was so mangled that they couldn't even salvage his eyes. Cliffs are no joke. You came dangerously close to falling off the cliff, and her response is, she didn't know you would get mad about pushing you? That's the wrong thing to be sorry about. Both the examples you mentioned were dangerous for the people around her, namely you, and in the case of the car driving, also the person behind you. And then you mentioned even a third example where she knowingly gave nuts to a person who has a nut allergy just to see the ensuing chaos. The fun and games and spontaneity that you like so much about her was actually just showing a side of her that she can't seem to control, even to the possible detriment of you and the people around her. She sounds like someone who doesn't think about the consequences. Most people grow out of this by the time they're adults. I'm a super careful person, so people like this piss me off to no end. Update: my girlfriend tried to push me off a cliff as a joke. So I've been thinking a lot, and I decided that I'm ending my relationship with her. This isn't easy for me, and it's hard because I've been with her for almost 2 years. But it's even harder because now I feel a ton of guilt myself as I remembered things that I ignored, and how I was only worried about her after I became the victim. I mentioned that point in the other thread, but I feel even worse about it now. I know I was stubborn in the last thread, but I listened to everyone's advice very carefully. You all helped so much. When people brought up the sadism aspect, it sort of clicked. I don't know if it was stupidity or selfishness, but I didn't think of her that way until this week. I just ignored everything that she did. I thought about some memories using this new perspective. I remember early this year, her dad got her a job at the front desk at this apartment complex. It's hard to explain this place because it was sort of a luxury place, and most apartments aren't like this, but I was there once or twice to pick her up, and I remember what the building looked like. There were a lot of older people living there, and right near the entrance of the building there was an elevator which only went up. Then there was the main elevator, which was kind of far down a long hallway. She had to call that first elevator down after the person was approved to go into the building. One time, me and her were smoking and just chilling, talking about stuff. She was laughing to me about how she would sometimes disable the up elevator and pretend it was out of order, and then she'd watch these older and handicapped people walk down the long hallway to get to the main elevator. She got fired pretty quickly anyway, because she activated the fire alarm when there was no fire. When they asked her what happened, she pretended that the computer was glitching and she couldn't stop it. But they believed she did it on purpose, so they fired her. I'm sure some people could have been injured during the chaos. I guess the alarm must have disabled the elevators, so everyone had to grab their stuff and run down the stairs as quickly as possible. I can imagine all these elderly people just going down so many flights of stairs. I don't think anyone was injured, but they did fire her, and maybe they're still investigating. I don't know if it could help, but I'm gonna call that place and tell them what she told me, and how she admitted to pulling the alarm on purpose. That will help my conscience out a lot. Like I said, I feel terrible about ignoring this stuff. You might think I'm an idiot or a terrible person myself. I don't know what to say, but when I really thought about this stuff, I decided I couldn't be with her. I know people will criticize me, and that's fine. This is an update, but also a confession, to be honest, because I have to get that off my chest. And there is a bunch of other stories too that she told me or that I saw myself. I enjoyed her craziness, to be honest, even though I was always on edge, but I thought of it as her being fun and spontaneous instead of sadistic. I guess I'm pretty weird myself. I responded to her texts this morning because she was starting to get angry and was sending a lot more texts. I told her I was really sick and she shouldn't be near me, but that we might be able to hang out again in a week or two. I said I wasn't mad at her anymore, and I just didn't respond because I was sick. I just told her that to get her off my back and to give myself time to prepare for the breakup because I don't know how she's going to react and I want to be safe. For example, she has the keys to my house and I'm living with other people, including kids, so I want to change the locks and make sure that we're not tied together in any other ways before I do an official breakup. Do you think that's a smart idea? I could use any advice on the best way to do a breakup in this situation because I'm kind of worried. Once again, thank you so much for all your advice last time and have a good day. For example, she has keys to my house and I'm living with other people including kids, so I want to change the locks and make sure we're not tied together in any other ways before I do an official breakup. Definitely do this, 100%. If you are renting, notify your landlord. If you own the property, we paid to have our household rekeyed when we bought it, and I think it cost us $150. She sounds crazy, so definitely get your ducks in a row before you drop the hammer. Tell your roommates about what's going on, at least to the point that you are breaking up and she is no longer allowed around the apartment. If she gets crazy over text, save copies. Definitely never be alone with her again. I'd recommend not even seeing her in person unless it's absolutely necessary. No shame in breaking up with her over the phone if you think she'll be unpredictable or violent. Also, freeze your credit reports in case she knows your information. Yes, definitely change your locks. You might want to look into getting some cheap security cameras for outside too. Tell your roommates, family, any mutual friends that you are breaking up and don't want them to help her contact you. You don't owe her anything here. She's literally tried to kill you. Don't feel bad at all if you decide to break up with her by text or email. It might even be a good idea, because then if she replies and threatens to escalate, you have it in writing. Make sure to specify that you don't want any contact with her going forward. If you do decide to break up in person, for the love of all that's holy, do it in a public place. Honestly, I hope he doesn't even do that either. I hope he just ghosts. Too many people in abusive relationships assume public breakups are safe. Too many domestic violence homicides still occur in public, and even worse. Additional innocent people sometimes are killed too. And OP says, I'm gonna do it via text. Keep records of any communication she sends. Take screenshots, print off messages, make other people aware of what is going on. If push comes to shove, and it has to be your word against hers in some crazy situation, or you need a protective order or anything like that, you will be prepared to protect yourself instead of having to scramble later. It's better to have the info and not use it than the other way around. Also, this limits her ability to lie or cover anything up later. Yeah, always let others know what's going on in a situation like this, and I hope you'll be able to change all the methods of her contacting you. She doesn't sound like a safe person to be around. Absolutely change your locks. Your soon-to-be ex is a very dangerous person. You need to do everything you can to be safe and protect yourself. Be supremely cautious in the next couple weeks while you prepare your exit strategy. If she texts, answer her as you normally would. Try to keep her from becoming suspicious. It was very smart to give yourself those couple of weeks. I know this might not be what you want to hear, but call the domestic abuse hotline. Tell them your story. I think it'll be very eye-opening for you. They will also have ideas and resources they can point you to help keep you safe. And finally, don't beat yourself up too much. It's easy to put blinkers on when it comes to the people we love. I can guarantee you that your girl manipulated you and trickle-dropped her crazy. What I mean by that is that I'm sure that she only shared the smallest portion of her actions and tried to mask them behind laughter and jokes. Your lack of reaction can also be a protective response. From what you've said in your posts, you've always been on guard around her. That's exhausting on many levels and could lead to you just being relieved that you weren't on the receiving end of her sadism. You spent so much time around her, with such a high level of alertness and with so much adrenaline flowing, that there would be a moment of pure relief when she was cruel to someone else. It wasn't you, so you were okay. It's not the nicest reaction, but when you're in that kind of situation, it's the one that your brain goes into to protect yourself. I think if you look back on your time with her, you'll probably find other moments where you were distinctly unsafe around her. It just so happens that you had your eyes sharply opened to what was really happening. All that being said, be careful going forward and please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. The number is 1-800-799-7233, or there's one specifically geared towards men if you prefer. The number for that one is 1-888-743-5754. It really will help, and be safe. And OP says, "Hey, thanks so much for that advice. I hadn't thought of treating it as domestic violence, and I might do that. And yeah, the way you described the adrenaline mixed with relief, that's how I felt a lot of the time. One or two of those feelings. Thanks for the comment." Final update, my girlfriend tried to push me off a cliff as a joke. Well, it's over. I officially broke up with her. I sent a short text earlier today. I wasn't mean, I just said it wasn't working out and we should both move on. She was surprisingly very understanding. She was emotional at first, but I know, despite our differences, that she does love me. When she saw how I felt, and when we talked about it in more detail, she was convinced that the breakup was the best for both of us. We talked on the phone, and I could tell that her feelings were 100% genuine. I know her so well, and I'm really gonna miss her. Before this conversation though, I did a bunch of stuff just in case something went wrong. I tried to change the locks, but I didn't want to tell my parents about this because I knew they'd get ticked at me. I couldn't do it without their permission, but now I see that it was unnecessary to do it. I also told some friends what was going on, changed my passwords, and I tried to close one bank account that we both have access to. It didn't work, but whatever. It doesn't matter now anyway since she's being so good about all of this. I'm so happy that it's over and that we won't have any major problems. She reminded me about an old Chromebook that she had left at my house. It's been there for months and I forgot all about it. That's the only valuable thing she has in this house, but she's going to come over in an hour or two and pick it up. Then we'll say our final goodbyes. While she's here, she's going to give me back the house key. I told her I needed it to give to a neighbor. I won't lie, I cried earlier today and I'm still very emotional. I know this is the right thing, but it's so hard. I could have left the Chromebook outside the house or mailed it to her or whatever, but I want to see her one more time. I want to hug her again. She loves my little bro and he's always so excited to see her. I want her to make him laugh one more time. I just want a proper goodbye and to make sure we're on good terms. The last time I saw her in person, I was furious and she was crying. I have ended the relationship. I won't go back now, but I can't leave it like it was. After today, it'll be no contact. I'll update you when it's over, just so you have the full story of how exactly it went. To address some other stuff, I mentioned in the last thread that I was going to report her to her former workplace for how she admitted to abusing those handicapped people and pulling the fire alarm. I decided against it because she's already been fired and I'm pretty sure the management of that place has moved on. I don't want to report her for trying to push me off the cliff either because it might just make her seek revenge in some way. A lot of people wanted me to find the allergic person who she gave nuts to and file a report about that, but I don't even know that person's name. She might not have even told me, but I don't remember anyway. I have a lot of incidents that I could go to the police with, but honestly, I'm so happy that our breakup will be smooth, and I don't want to make it worse. Maybe I'm selfish, but at least for now, I'm gonna avoid taking legal action. Also, in all honesty, I don't think she's too far gone. I think she can change and I hope she does, and doesn't need to get in trouble to become a better person. I know she can do it because deep down, she is a good person like we all are. Thanks for all the support. What a crazy time in my life, but I'm glad that I got past it. I appreciate everyone's help so much, and I couldn't have done this without all of your advice. I just can't thank you enough. Why I got a feeling like this ain't over? Anyone? I agree. This girl is a psycho, and for some reason he wants to paint her as not being a bad person. OP is letting her off easy, and I think a couple of sweet words and "I'm a changed person" will suck him right back in. Honestly, he might already be dead. I think his ex-girlfriend wrote this post. It's all pretty sus. Either that, or she knows she reached his limits. Abusers will limit test early in a relationship to see how much they can get away with. The more self-aware ones will be very cordial and helpful during the breakup process because they don't want to be in a relationship with someone who will stand up for themselves, and they want to make sure that you believe in the mask and not the person behind it. She won her job security by being kind. Abusive people absolutely see the value in kindness and generosity. It helps them hide. If I wanted to lull someone into a false sense of security, I'd sound understanding and reasonable too. And she might well be right now. Watch yourself if you get into a new relationship, OP. People like that turn on a dime, and it often ends badly. Don't wait till something worse happens to take action. Best of luck. If I was a sociopath, got my kicks out of harming people, and my boyfriend just dumped me, I would be oh so sweet and understanding too. Remind him that I have stuff that I need to pick up and would like to see him in person. Gives the perfect opportunity to get in there and F him up. I really hope this scenario doesn't happen to him and he can get out of this relationship in one piece. Me too. Plus, he's already stated that she waited till he let his guard down to try and push him off a cliff. How could you sleep at night knowing that she might have made a copy of your key? No, no, no. I feel like OP is still in the denial stage of grief. His ex-girlfriend seriously is not a good person, he just wants her to be, because the idea of having knowingly dated an evil person, or maybe just sociopathic person, is understandably a hard pill to swallow. OP, I'd still report her. Even if she's already been fired, you don't necessarily know why she was fired. If it was for an unrelated issue, the management may want to know what else she'd done so they can follow up and make sure that those people are okay. Choosing not to report her is placing her well-being over the well-being of people that she knowingly hurt. Also, I seriously doubt someone can knowingly abuse handicapped people and be a good person at the same time. You'll still be grieving, so you probably haven't finished processing all of your feelings, but please stop making excuses for this woman. She also needs help, and reporting her isn't about getting her into trouble, it's about getting the help that she needs but won't get for herself. Agreed. If something like this happens again, there will be a paper trail and something can actually be done about it instead of a simple fine or slap on the wrist. OP, I know you think she won't, but please don't be alone with this person when you meet. Someone who finds joy in others' misery won't discriminate when they need to feel better. Please still change the locks, and please at least report her antics to the police. This post is the precursor to a murder. I don't think we are going to hear from OP again. I hope I'm wrong. And you know what, guys? OP has not commented on anything, hasn't updated, hasn't said anything since posting this post. So, I guess we won't know. It's a mystery. Alright, that's where I think I'm going to end today's episode, guys. As always, I really do hope you learned something or just really enjoyed the posts that were put up today. Quick shout out to all my new and existing Patreon and channel members. You should be able to see your name on screen right now, and if you don't, then I don't think you're part of the club, and you really should join the club because it's a great club. And I want to thank every single one of you guys for supporting me in this journey. It really means so much to me, and I love you all so much for it. Thank you for helping me out. As you can tell, I'm now happy and healthy back in Australia. Thank God it's not cold like Ireland. I don't like wearing jumpers everywhere. I prefer the heat. Thank you very much. I know that's an unpopular opinion. Anyway, guys, I really do hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you later. Bye.